A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillah rahman rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Muhammad Abdul-Kareem, and this is a continuous reading of a book named Brainwashed, Challenging the Myth of Black Inferiority by Tom Burrell. This here is chapter 2, and we're going to continue from there. Relationship wrecks. Why can't we form strong families? The shattering blows on the Negro family have made it fragile, deprived, and often psychopathic. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on January, excuse me, on Father's Day, June 15, 2008, Barack Obama, then only a candidate for the U.S. presidential nomination, stood before a black congregation at a Chicago South Side church and delivered an important message to black communities. Of all the rocks upon which we build our lives, we are reminded today that family is the most important. But if we are honest with ourselves, we'll also admit that too many fathers are missing from too many lives and too many homes. They have abandoned their responsibilities, acting like boys instead of men, and the foundations of our families are weaker because of it. While Obama was congratulated for boldly taking absentee black fathers to task and condemned for taking an optimistic shot at black men for political gain, all sides missed the most important points. Black men are not just absent from their child's lives, too many black men and women are absent from each other's lives. In other words, it's not just a fathering problem, it's a familying problem. Another casualty of our addiction to the black inferiority brand. The major challenge, therefore, is to discuss and seriously dissect the black familying problem. Songs to beat down of black life. Hit the road, Jack. The kid is not my son. Who's making love to your old lady? Papa was a rolling stone. We sing, dance, and make love to catchy beats that endorse, reinforce, and promulgate promulgate our most self-destructive habits. The messages are not only telegraphed through our music, the muddy melee of black relationships seemingly splash across the front pages of tabloids, on internet pages, on the nightly news and TV dramas, and in everyday advertising. The media gleefully amplified the exploits of a wildly successful R&B singer beaten bloody by her equally popular boyfriend. Of course, the juicy story of the black televangelist strangled and stomped by her preacher husband on a hotel parking lot also received plenty of media play. Flip the channel or turn the page, and there are the baby mamas and baby daddies. So ubiquitous in common American culture that they become plot points or titles for mainstream comedies and movies. And there, on the news, backed by respected research, are the products of all this ingrained promiscuity and violence. Young children seemingly running amok in urban cities that breed violence. Some left to raise their own siblings in the absence of negligent or missing parents. The syndicated television program Maury, hosted by Maury Povich, is known for its Who's Your Daddy segments. Much of the content is based on issuing paternity tests to teens and young adults in hopes of determining fatherhood. In just 1 week during the summer of 2009, I watched these scenarios. These young African American women, girls, really, accused a young man of fathering their three children, all born within a month of one another. The young man had another 7-month-old child with his current girlfriend. In another segment, a young girl slept with two men at the same time and was unsure who fathered her child. Then there was the story about a mother who paid her daughter boyfriend for sex. Many of Maury's guests are black, and the sheer number of these cases is damning. Shows like these, along with court television shows that promote the same dysfunction, are very popular. I couldn't help but imagine the vast numbers of people indoctrinated by these images of black family chaos. And it's not like we can put 100% of the blame for this public buffoonery on the producers of these shows. These situations aren't fabricated, they're just carefully picked realities of black life. Sadly, it's art, and I use the word loosely, that imitates life. We watch these programs like a gory train wreck because they involve so many people who look like us. Blacks not only dance to the beat of family destruction, who patronize films, but by blacks producers and directors that bombard our brains and reinforce all the bad we've been fed about ourselves. First by the white ruling class, and now abetted by our brainwashed brethren. Whether it's sagas like Rihanna and Chris Brown, or negative self-demeaning movies, or characters like those depicted in HBO's gritty urban drama The Wire, black relationships and families are seen as hopelessly at odds, dysfunctional, violent, and unsubstantial. Yet we accept and share these perceptions without question or qualm. Passionate conversations about no good black men among groups of black women are not irregularities. What is a rare occurrence, however, is our willingness to go to the historic root of negative black male behavior, or discuss how fatherless homes help shape the sentiments shared by so many black women. Likewise, black men are not aware of the unconscious motivators that cause them to demean black women. Nary is one objection raised when gaggles of these men depict evil, mean spirited, materialistic, or impatient black women, and then expound on why they're better off with white women. Little attention is paid to the daughters these men bring into the world. Not only are they conditioned to live the stereotype of their mothers, many do so in homes with absentee fathers. It's assumed that black women are supposed to have a slew of children with multiple men who will eventually abandon them. These women are quickly relegated to supermom status, expected to serve as both the foundation and as the black family's doormat. This too is a topic that receives little discussion, as is the mystery of how and why black women become enablers, molding black boys who will someday emulate the actions of their wayward fathers. At a very young age, black men and women are inundated, innu- inundated with messages that they cannot trust or depend upon one another. Children hear comments and jokes about lazy, greedy, irresponsible, or otherwise flawed black adults. They are warned to be tough, trust no one, and always be prepared for the doomed relationship. Is it really a revelation that incompatibly lack of love and oftentimes violence become the inevitable conclusion of these tainted individuals' relationships? Black family dysfunction. We hear them, we see them, we feel them, and ultimately we tune them out. Distrust and contempt, physical, verbal, and psychological abuse, infidelity, emotional distance, and mutually disabling partnerships. These are the five most destructive dynamics that lead to fractured black relationships and broken families. To tackle our black inferiority complex as a purposefully embedded condition, it's important that we approach the subject in the manner in which I've taken on projects as a marketing and advertising executive for 45 years. In a sense, BI, Black Inferiority Complex, is the competitor's product. My goal is to break its dominance in the black mindset and introduce a better, uplifting brand. This means that we first have to dissect the brand's staying power and understand how it continues to wreak havoc on black families and relationships. So let's start peeling the onion. First, let's define the five dynamics that hamper the development of strong, healthy black families. Relationship wrecks, dynamics, disrespect, words of mutual contempt, ridicule, wide mistrust of mates, mothers, and fathers. We hear this in everyday conversations amongst black men and women, parents and grandparents, at parties, and in the privacy of our homes. Words of mutual contempt and casual dissing of one another that seed the notion that black men and women are to be ridiculed, put down, and wildly mistrusted as mates and as parents. The effects of self-inflicted disrespect is indicated in the 43.3% of black men and 41.9% of black women in America who have never been married, according to 2001 Census Bureau statistics, compared to 27.4% of white men and 20.7% of white women who have never married. The overall U.S. marriage rate from 1970 to 2001 declined by 17%, but the rate among blacks fell by a whopping 34%. Number two, the beatdown. Disproportionate rate of physical, verbal, spiritual, and psychological abuse in black relationships. Physical, verbal, spiritual, and psychological abuses are disproportionate factors in black relationships. Today, reported incidents of family violence are highest in African American households, according to data from the American Bar Association Commission on Domestic Violence. The number one killer of African American women ages 15 to 34 is not cancer, not car wrecks, but dying at the hands of loved ones. Overall, from 1993 to 1998, black females experienced intimate partner violence at a rate of 35% higher than that of white females and about 22 times the rate of women of other races. On the other side of this spectrum, we find that black males experience intimate partner violence at a rate of about 62% higher than that of white males about 22 times the rate of men of other races. Of course, verbal, psychological, and spiritual abuse has not been documented, but coupled with physical violence, we glimpse the full body assault far too many black women, men, and children must endure. Recognizing the beatdown is one thing, understanding its destructive opposition to forming and maintaining healthy family relationships is the real task at hand. Number three, can't be true to my boo. The acceptance and the expectation of infidelity. Infidelity is another popular subject in relationship conversations. Additionally, in song and through mass media messages, we advertise our inability to remain true to one another. And like self fulfilling prophecies, these repeated messages are like bricks paving the walkway to wreck relationships. Number four, icing, emotional shutdown and distance that fosters unhealthy relationships. Icing results in embracing anti intimate behavior, even in intimate relationships. We are a tough, strong, resilient race. Our elders remind us that life ain't no crystal stair. We're expected to suck it up and deal with the cards we're dealt in life. The icing process is encoded in our DNA. Therefore, we embrace anti intimate behavior even as we seek intimate relationships. We shut down and keep emotional distance, hoping to avoid hurt at all cost. In reality, we only avoid true romanticism, opting instead to survive relationships instead of enjoying healthy ones. Number five, mutual disenabling. Irresponsible black men and overprotective black women perpetrate negative emotional trends with sons and daughters. Children continue the cycle of unhealthy relationships. Irresponsible and absent black fathers who won't or can't protect or provide for their families mate with the black superwoman. Over responsible, addicted to no account black men and woefully empty partnerships, they assume roles of mama, daddy, and family provider. Their fragile children will someday procreate and continue the cycle of unhealthy relationships. The result were evident in the 2005 National Center for Health Statistics data showing that nearly 70% of black children in the United States were born to single mothers compared to 25.3% to non Hispanic white women and 48% to Hispanic women. We acknowledge these and other negative statistics, but what has not been thoroughly explored is how we collectively came to behave in destructive ways and why the cycle continues unabated. Question, analyze, unplug, reprogram. Are these statistics indicative of our natural state of affairs, or do they reflect the self fulfilling prophecy? Are we stuck on a path of low expectations that legitimizes the disintegration of black families? Are we so iced and emotionally toughened that we expect abusive, violent relationships, high percentages of unmarried couples, and out of wedlock children born to parents with no commitment to one another or their children's well being? Failing to explore the genesis and ongoing ramifications of these issues is like a doctor treating acute pneumonia with a suppressant. The baby mama, baby daddy drama is laughable, even to a generation of blacks who expect a single mother to raise kids who must fend for themselves and have no extended family members to nurture, care for, or protect them. What kind of indictment is it of black men and women that, based on the number of their sexual relationships, they don't know who has fathered or mothered their children? It's disheartening to watch young black men on shows like Maury celebrate when they learn you are not the father. Reaction to such life altering news may be understandable, but for most of the American viewing audience, these young men are celebrating their escape from responsibility. Fatherhood is one of the greatest privileges in any society, yet, this very serious issue is trivializing through spectacles like Mari and other popular TV shows. Trivializing black life has become all too common a sport. Why are stable, normal black families considered the exception, not the rule? Perhaps it's because constantly marketed, predetermined negative expectations prepare black men and women to expect the worst from one another. Perhaps it's because history takes us directly to a place that inspires white guilt and black gloom, a place many want to ignore and few want to recognize as the source of much of today's black angst. It's time to look past the depressing headlines and gloomy statistics and begin dealing with the acute factors that cripple black families and relationships. First, however, we must honestly look into what contributes to this state of affairs, where the beatdown began. To be blunt, disproportionate black family dysfunction is directly linked to American chattel slavery, the founding fathers, and the barbaric entrepreneurship of a nation. As black abolitionist David Walker argued in his 1829 pamphlet, Appeal to the Colored Citizen of the World, American slave owners, unlike their counterparts in some other slave based economics, had to regard for fami- uh, famil- familial, familial attachments. In fact, they made a conscious, willful decision to control slaves' minds through decimating the black family. Deconstructing the very concept of black family was central to the massive enterprise to build a new economy and to lay the cornerstones of personal fortunes. Assessing this from a marketing perspective, to achieve their strategy. Enslavers could not leave Africans with any vestige of the family brand. In layman's terms, the black family had to be destroyed, and the first order of business was to annihilate the black family's designated protector, the black man. My granny taught me a lot about black men, that they are good for nothing. They don't want to work. They want to sit up and take all your money, and they are ignorant. She told me if I was smart, I should be good and go to school and find myself a rich white man. Layla. Dehumanizing the family. By the mid 1600s, with the passage of the first slave codes, slave masters began legalizing the dehumanization of African slaves. Because men in African cultures were an integral part of both the immediate and extended family, branding and breaking any remnant of a rebel spirit in black men became a critical step. If black men were not sufficiently animalized, dehumanized, and broken, they could potentially cause great damage to the lucrative slave marketing system, as slave revolts in America and Haiti proved. Slaves had no legal safeguards. Black men were powerless to protect their loved ones from harassment, sexual exploitation, or rape from masters and overseers. Black women were forced by circumstances to stifle their matriarchal impulses and to abide and navigate a system that left their husbands and children exposed to unimaginable cruelty. Toni Morrison book Beloved provides but a glimpse into the insane world where a beaten and brutalized runaway slave mother kills her baby girl rather than have the child reared as a slave. Fear was a constant among slave families. In addition to various other indignities and humiliations, slave families were forced to watch wives, husbands, sons, and daughters harassed, violated, and mutilated. Those who tried to protect their loved ones found themselves abused or murdered. To my knowledge, the long term trauma and mental damage to the black family forced to tolerate repeated family abuse under slavery has never been fully studied or documented. One thing is clear, however: stripping black men and women of their natural roles as parents and protectors and conditioning them to accept physical and psychological abuse were initial steps in the brainwashing campaign. If early American institutions of commerce, architecture, and religion morphed into modern times, is it any surprise that the subsystem that devastated the slave family also snaked its way in some form into the 21st century? We have iced over centuries of inherited trauma. Instead, most of us choose the easy route of emotional detachment, refusing to acknowledge a damaging condition we don't understand and cannot control. The damage still seeps out. It's notable in the abandonment, debasement, and violence we inflict upon ourselves, our spouses, our lovers, and our children. Marcus came from a working class black family, one generation away from the projects. We didn't so much as fall in love, we fell in need. His parents fought and were abusive, so we were really doomed from the start. He was used to seeing abuse Therefore, he thought that was what a man was supposed to do. I was used to taking abuse, so I thought that was what I was supposed to do. We were a perfect complement for each other for disaster. Tanya, age 52. I'm going to end on that one now. This has been about 12 pages of reading, and I will continue this, inshallah, later on another note. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.